Hello and welcome to This Naked Chat, a podcast where six friends from different walks of life come together for honest, unscripted conversations about living alcohol-free and everything that comes with it. We all met at a live event hosted by Annie Grace of This Naked Mind in March of 2024. What started as a mastermind group with the six of us and Annie turned into some really deep friendships, filled with connection, tough conversations, and a lot of laughter. And after a year of growing and learning together, we realized that these conversations might help more than just us. So here we are, no scripts, just real talk. We are incredibly grateful to Annie and This Naked Mind for helping us get this off the ground and for the impact that her work has had on each of our lives. I am Brian, and I am joined by Kori, Agnes, Judi, Jenie, and Sammie. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Brian.
Hi,
hey,
Brian.
everyone.
Hi.
Welcome.
Jenie, Brian, Agnes, Judi today.
Welcome
and today,
to This Naked Chat.
Yeah! Today we are going to talk about boundaries and specifically maybe when they go wrong. And I think, does someone have a good definition off the top of their head of boundaries? I always get confused on this one.
Fence.
Okay. I could look it up.
Well, boundaries are meant for yourself, not for somebody else. It's for you. It's to keep you safe, or, to keep that mental peace or physical or any of that. So they're technically meant, people put in boundaries for themselves. It's really meant for themselves. It's not supposed to be for you to put walls up in between you and other people. It should really be more on the safe side.
Okay.
But they need to be explained. And so communicated, and they have to be specific, and all of that. So that's
that's interesting.
that's how I look at boundaries, right?
So it's kind of the line you will cross or won't cross.
Yes, exactly.
It's that invisible line. I'll do this, but I won't do that because that's my boundary. That's not who I am.
Exactly. So again, they're not supposed to be in a negative way. So for instance, let's say gossiping. If I'm not comfortable with gossiping, and that is something that I don't want to participate in because that could be a core value of mine, or whatever the case may be, or I'm just having whatever it is, I could put in that boundary and just gently say, if there's gossiping going on in the room that I'm with, that, you know what, this is not a conversation that I would like to participate in. So I'm just going to pull myself out of it. And you know what, and I'll be back. So again, you're not telling somebody else what to do or not do or make them change, but you are communicating with them, letting them know that this is not where I want to be. And then, so that's the way that I see boundaries.
Does it have to be communicated? I guess it probably doesn't, because sometimes you just I'm going to set this. They don't have to know necessarily, and, Yeah, okay. I get that.
Well,
that makes more sense.
Well, I think also, sometimes in explaining your boundary, you can also inadvertently insult someone else.
That's what I was wondering, yeah. I'm
right? You can say, well, you know what? You may do this, but it's not my gig. So boom. So that person can feel judged, right? Even though we're saying, well, you do what you want, but it's not for me. That's still kind of...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, especially, around the time when I stopped drinking, I had to create some boundaries, and probably I didn't necessarily tell people. I just stopped doing certain things. And you get that, where have you been? What are you? And you don't necessarily have to say it out loud. Oh, well, I stopped drinking and I don't want to hang out with you.
Well,
it's I can't, I'm just, you could say it.
Yeah. I think that saying it or communicating it, that wouldn't be for every single person. That would be something that you would be to your partner, to maybe your children, like somebody more immediate.
That must be why I haven't told them to anyone. Yeah, I don't have those things.
Right.
My dog,
Yeah. So,
Okay.
not
Yeah, that makes sense.
necessarily
Well, it's situation
everybody.
specific. Right.
Exactly.
Situation specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question then becomes, what happens and how do you handle it when boundaries are crossed? When because I have people that are very aware of my boundaries, but either they want to agitate me just for fun, and so they cross those boundaries just to poke a bear, if you will, or they inadvertently, I've said that twice now. It must be a word, inadvertently.
It's good.
It's good. Or they just do it without thinking, cross your boundary, then what happens?
Is this the when boundaries go wrong?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I guess it would depend on the situation and exactly how you feel and what kind of outcome you're looking for, if any. It's knowledge. It's your awareness where those individuals are coming from, and at what type of relationship you want to have with them.
Judi,
right? Because you can't change anybody else. So,
do you have a specific example that might be helpful?
Of when someone crosses your boundaries? I probably have a million of them. Go ahead, put me on the spot while I'm not thinking.
I was trying to think of that, like, even, if you set them, what I was thinking about is sometimes maybe when they go wrong for me is I've set them, but the people that I'm with don't know them. So I'll act like either, I'll get mad or pull away, and they won't know why. And I think that causes more harm than if I just came out and said, hey, look, guys, this isn't comfortable for me anymore. Kind of like in your example, Agnes, of like, I'm just going to step away. There's a fine line, I think, for some of us who feel like you want to please everyone, right? That there's some, like, I'm not always comfortable saying, hey, so I'll just stay in it, even though it riles me up. And then that causes me to, underneath kind of get mad at them and then be more snappy or something. So I'm not as good of I'm not operating on myself, I guess.
And another, I can think of an example now, Jenie, that's kind of a little not so bad that no, like when you hire people to come work in your yard, right? Or all of a sudden they think, well, they've worked in your yard, they've plowed your snow, they've done whatever, and now all of a sudden they're showing up like it's their yard, and instead of coming into your yard and saying, well, how do you want it done, or how do you want this done or that done, they just go right ahead and do it the way they would do it if it was their yard. And then they come without announcement, and all of a sudden you've got a truck out there doing something when you didn't want that to happen, because that wasn't communicated that they were showing up. And so then, like, to your point, Brian, you get mad. And you're like, wah, 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 wah. And then you have to calm down in a way to communicate that without offending that person. Like, I know you're trying to be helpful, and I appreciate that. However, I wasn't planning on this today. Could you communicate in the future better? This has been a real life scenario for me. So, does that work, Jenie?
Definitely something I don't think I do well, hearing all of these examples. Jenie, did you have a good one?
Yeah, but probably not for a podcast.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to think about.
I'm still too close to it, and it's family, and I need a little more distance to be able to make it fictional.
Or let's think about grandparents. How many people are grandparents where the kids show up at the house and just say, oh, well, I have to run here. You'll take the kids, right, Mom? In front of the kids. In front of the kids. That's a huge boundary. That's like a personal... It's disrespectful in some regards.
And that's another one though, like, gosh, if you don't communicate that though, then it
continues.
Yeah. Like,
Well, that brings up like even expectations, right? So then there's a whole list of them. So, for that, the way that I would see that is if they're just dropping off the kids to you for you to take care of them, then yeah, that definitely there needs to be some sit down communication there as to, okay, what is acceptable for me and what isn't. And I think that when you can make it about how this is how it's making me feel, or this is what's important to me because of this. Like, I want to be the best version of myself. So if I can't bring that version of myself to this situation, then I need to say no. And this is where it's like, okay, for the future, can you call? Can you do this? Like, it has to be communicated. So it goes back to the whole communication part of it.
I have had a coaching client who's been alcohol free for a good long while, more than a year, has a spouse who is still drinking and struggling. And my coaching client is very social, and so she and her spouse have dinner parties a lot and that kind of thing. And she made it very clear to their group of friends many months ago, like probably summertime, please don't, I would prefer you not bring alcohol, and I'm not going to be serving any there, just to try and minimize the exposure to her spouse. That could possibly be a different conversation, but anyway, so for a while, nobody brought any alcohol to her home. And then the holidays came. And then, well, but now it's the holidays. So, you didn't mean over the holidays, right? And it's interesting, and I can totally feel this in my body. It's interesting how quickly my client, who had been very secure in her decision mentally, she's totally comfortable with it, no problem. And now it was very quick to her flipping to making herself wrong. And maybe I am being too rigid. Maybe I'm not being a good enough host for them, and I'm not being welcoming. And, it was instantaneous that their violation of her clearly communicated boundary made her question her boundary. And I think that just demonstrates to me why boundaries are so important, because we're sort of naturally wired to have a hard time saying no, no matter what the situation. And the grandkid thing is a great example, because you don't want to say no to spending time with your grandkids, even if you were about to go out for lunch with friends or, play pickleball or whatever. But then you start questioning the boundary you've set for yourself. And I think for me, that's another example of how boundaries can sometimes go off the rails.
This episode is sponsored by This Naked Mind, a revolutionary approach to changing your relationship with alcohol. When it comes to your drinking, you don't have to hit rock bottom to want something different, and you don't have to do it alone. This Naked Mind blends neuroscience, psychology, and self-compassion to help you stop relying on willpower and start creating real, lasting change. No shame, no labels, and no rules. Whether you want to take a break, drink less, or stop drinking for good, This Naked Mind has a program that meets you where you are, with world-class coaching and a compassionate, judgment-free community to support you every step of the way. Learn more about This Naked Mind at thisnakedmind.com.
We talked about... I think this was on the last, what's his name? Mark
Manson.
Mark Manson. We talked about this last time. That's something similar, Jenie, that as you were talking about that, you have these boundaries set for you, and then they almost at some point you start thinking maybe I got too stringent on these, right? So you start to question your boundaries, and you're like, well, maybe I'll let this back in. I was thinking about that, like even in my world, is like I maybe set so many boundaries sometimes that it's really isolating, right? Like I cut off entire groups, and I'm like, I liked pieces of that group. There's just, so I can see how that then gets in your head of like, oh man, maybe I turn the dial too much, and you almost, put the blame back on you. You're like, no, those were healthy boundaries to keep. But man, yeah.
But that goes back to because human.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So we're human beings. So, and boundaries can change over time. We're not the same person as we were yesterday, never mind who we're going to be tomorrow. So reevaluating the boundaries we put in place instead of making ourselves wrong about it, but just maybe exploring it, maybe not, maybe adjusting, tweaking it a little bit. Maybe that's what we need to do. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
But it's that pressure of making us wrong for whatever reason, whatever feeling it is that's coming up for us, that we're trying to, again, seek pleasure, avoid pain, conserve energy, all of it. And again, as human beings, we always we're going to test things out. So it's like, okay, I've been doing this for this long. Oh, I'm curious. I wonder, can I try? Maybe they're going to be okay with it now. And, when we can now drink, maybe they've had enough time that, they're okay with that. So again, looking at it as, getting upset or as an opportunity to have that conversation, or see, okay, how comfortable am I with the alcohol in the room or not in the room? Where am I with that? And having that communication with it.
Yeah. It's like, I always think about this, I will bounce. Annie has an example of this, but I'll bounce from extreme to extreme versus staying in the middle sometimes. And I think, this seems to maybe be the case that we're talking about with boundaries, is we'll create so many that it'll shift us all the way over here. And then you almost have to say, okay, maybe I, that served its purpose. But maybe there are some things within there that I can start to play with, because it created an unexpected, thing for me that isn't working now. I like that, how you said that.
I think you're talking about fusion versus cutoff, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think so. I think it's also interesting for me, and this came up over the weekend for me, how difficult I think so many times with both expectations and boundaries, part of the reason we don't verbalize them to the other parties when maybe we should, not always, but maybe there are situations where we should verbalize them. We are just not socialized to ask for what we need emotionally. We're socialized to ask for what we want materially. We're pretty good at that, but we're not socialized to ask for what we need emotionally without, unleashing a whole shitstorm of meaning and shame, and I shouldn't have to ask for the, blah, 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 all of that noise. And I think for sure that enters into this realm also.
Yeah, I think that it all circles back to self-knowledge, right? And when you're talking about the opposite sides of the spectrum, you're here, and then you go boom, because you don't really know what you want and who you want. So you shut off everything. And then while you're over here dancing, you learn that, oh, yeah, no can be a sentence. Yeah. Just N-O can be a sentence. But giving ourselves permission, I think it starts with ourselves. We need to know ourselves, and then we need to give ourselves permission that, you know what? Yeah, this is how I feel. And so what? Good for me. Good for me seeing it. And B, I got to stick up for myself. I'm my own self-advocate.
And it's kind of like that, like you're saying there, bouncing back and forth is how you find your middle.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like,
right.
So I've seen that in so many things, because this is I don't know, it's not a new concept for me, but like this just being, like I use it in like an exercise world, how I always were like, I have to keep going. And every time I go to the gym, I have to crush myself and get better and better and better. And the answer I found out is not really. It's like, no, you can just, go for a walk every day and that's fine. But that's the example that's been in my head lately of like, oh, you have to figure out yourself. I've done it with my career and all that too, right? It's been like chase. And then you're like, no, you can just find your sweet spot almost. And that's what works for you, not everyone else in the world.
Well,
Yeah.
and that comes back to also the fact because we're just very binary creatures.
Yeah.
It's either one thing or the other thing. It's black or white. It's never this murky middle ground of mush where actually it turns out there can be a lot of clarity there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a both and we're not good at both and.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not. And then I think that also it comes that whole thing of fear and blame. And I think that that's maybe what Annie was also talking about, right? We always fall from one or the other. So we may not say something because we're afraid of what that's going to make them feel or whatever the case may be. And then we turn around and we start blaming themselves, blaming us, like, and then we keep on going back and forth, where it's like, what's that middle ground here?
Mm-hmm.
What's true to us? Because if you're okay with your own truth, then it doesn't make a difference what anybody else is going to say or think. You're going to be okay with it. And you're doing it in the best interest of yourself, which will be in the best interest of everybody else, because now you're not being your authentic self. You're not operating from that honesty and integrity and all of those other things. And no one likes those feelings.
That's kind of a state of maturity, isn't it?
Yes.
When I think about it, like I'm thinking about, all right, why is it? All right, so we're in our 40s and 50s and we're like, wah! And we say, oh, well, we're growing and we're becoming more mature. Well, when we start drinking or when we have trauma, we stop emotionally growing.
Yeah.
Right. So we can be 58, for goodness sakes, and all of a sudden be, oh, I gotta do 13 to 18 over because why? I drank all those years. So I have to, it goes faster. It doesn't take you 5 years to get through it, but you still have to go through that. So when you come to the age of enlightenment, if you will, it's kind of like you've cleaned up and you've grown up and you've emotionally reached, oh, I'm a little bit mature now. This is good. It's kind of, and accepting where you are and say, all right, you know what? I'm not doing such a hot job here. So what? You're doing.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yep. I agree.
It's like a boundary there is also, I think all of you said the word fear, or Jenny kind of was getting there of like, you don't want to say something. Not only are you, I was thinking of this, not only are you afraid of how it might make them feel, but how you might look, like if I say to someone, but like to Judy's point then is like, no, that's me. Like I shouldn't, why should I be afraid to be like, hey, this is me. And this is my little cutoff here that you've reached it or whatever that is.
And it's real careful not to be in your face.
Right.
It's not an aggressive, this is me. It's simply, I accept me, who I am. And so if you want to be with me, I ask you to accept me as well, because I'm going to accept you.
Yeah. It's almost just, that maturity, that comfort level of been like, I'm going to go ahead and let them know. And not feel insecure because I'm confident this is who I am, kind of thing, Yeah. Oh, that's hard.
Well, it is hard because
sometimes for me,
it becomes emotional safety.
Yeah.
Right. And that is where that is learned as a child. We're taught emotional safety from the ages of 0 to 7 within that time. And so if we're not feeling it, we don't know how to navigate that. So if we feel like, oh my God, my feelings are going to get hurt, never even mind them, then I won't know how I'm going to react to that or whatever. Then it could totally sidetrack us from what we actually want to do or the boundaries we need to put in place or all of it.
What do you do? So this was when boundaries go bad. And I think this came up, this has come up for me a lot lately. How do you, let's see, say that the example that I made of you create so many that you find yourself completely isolated. How do you go in and look then and say, all right, here's some areas where I maybe overtuned that, and I need to let people in. Does that make sense? Like,
well, answer the question, Brian.
I know, that's what I'm trying to think of. I mean, for me, what I did is, I went back into some things. I'm like, I really miss these things. I was happy doing them. There were just pieces, so like improv was one of them that I'm like, I need to get back in that world because I pulled myself out for whatever reason. But there were parts of it that I really loved. So I need to go back in and almost, it's uncomfortable because you're like, I'm going to go back in there and almost re-find where that boundary is, right? Because I'm like, I've shut it off too much. That didn't make me happy. Or not happy is a bad word for that, I guess, but I don't know. It didn't give me the desired effect.
But you maybe had to shut it off in
Right.
order to see, all right, here are the things I do like.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't shut it off, you wouldn't have known these are the things I do like. And so then you have to go in and say, all right, what can I personally myself compromise with and be comfortable with so that I can have the other? It's that balance, right?
Yeah.
It's that yin and yang or whatever you want to call. I don't know what you call it. But anyway, it's that balance.
Yeah. And I think that's where maybe I and others get stuck is you're like, no, well, I created it for a reason. I can't adjust it. And that was to Agnes's point, right? You're like, no, you can. And it's really healthy to reassess every so often everything.
It's called growing.
Yeah,
it's
right?
It's called growing as a
Exactly.
human being.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to Judy's point also, and to your situation, Brian, with improv, sometimes you need to get completely out of it to be able to absolutely articulate what is it I don't like about this and what is it I do like about this. And then with that knowledge, you can go back in and say, as Judy said, okay, what am I willing to compromise on? But when you're in it, you can't always see it, right? Because if there's so much stuff that's just annoying the ever living hell out of you, that's all you see.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you get to the point where you're drowning in all the shit that's annoying the ever living hell out of you, and you forgot why
Isn't
you
that
came in the
funny?
first place, and you can't see it. Yeah, that's very familiar to me.
Yeah.
It's looking pretty right there.
Yeah. That's happening for me right now in something else. So when you said that, I was like, that's exactly what's happening. I'm like, I cannot see any of the positives. I know they're there. It's so interesting.
Yeah, but you got to back up. You got to see the forest for the trees. You got to,
in my head, to that point, and this might be right. This might be what I do. But my initial step is to what you're saying is just like, okay, I'm going to stop it. And then I'm going to see what it was, because right now, everything I point out about it, I'm like, and this is like a gym, an exercise thing. And I'm like, I hate this, but this and this and this about it. There's things that I like. I know I can't find them necessarily. So you're right. You almost need to be like, all right, I'm going to shift it over here. And
it's kind of like when you're with people, right? And you're like, why are they bugging me?
Yeah.
If you take a break, but you take a
No, you're
break
right.
and you sit back and you say, all right, what is it I like about this person? And what is it? What's under my skin that I can't identify? Oftentimes we find out that, I'm seeing me in them, right?
Yeah.
And that's
boy.
and these are points about me that I don't like, and I'm projecting them onto them or whatever. It's tricky.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just, I need to back up because it might be too much. Like Agnes, it's too much. Like she says, it's too much.
All right. Well, I'm going to quit everything.
Well, and then sit back and say, all right, what do I want to rejoin?
Yeah.
You already tried that, I think. and it
Yeah.
didn't go well.
Yes.
So
Well, do it again.
This is a good recent thing of like letting things start back in, and it's been nice. And some of them that I let back in, I'm like, nope, that was not the run. So cats are still not in. Still allergic. Anything else today?
No, I think that was good.
good talk, y'all.
You're all the best.
Nah. No is no.
Oh, yeah. All right. Hey, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If something we said resonated, made you laugh, or made you think, we'd love it if you share it with someone who might need it too. And if you're curious about going alcohol-free or just ready to feel more connected to yourself, check out This Naked Mind. Annie's work brought us all together, and we're so grateful for the impact it's had. On that note, a big thank you to Annie Grace and This Naked Mind for making this podcast possible. We'll see you next time on This Naked Chat.